Well, a warm welcome everyone to this morning's webinar, Dementia, a Whole Life Approach, Dementia Dog Learning Event. I'm Arlene Crockett and I'm the Director of Evidence and Influencing for the Dementia Programme with the Life Changes Trust. And I'm going to be your chair for today's webinar. Before we get started, I just want to go over some key points that we sent to you in your joining notes. These will help us to make this the best experience for you this morning. So firstly, could everyone turn off their cameras and also mute their mics? So please turn off your cameras and your mics. Just to let you know, we will be recording here in the main room of the webinar, but we will not be recording in the breakout rooms. Secondly, make sure you are on gallery view. You can find this option in the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you can see lots of people, you're in gallery view, so you're in the right track. If not, just click on that button and that should get it sorted. Lastly, we would like to ask you to hide other non-video participants. This will give you a better experience of all of our speakers. You do this by right-clicking on your own little black box or anyone whose camera is turned off and select Hide Non-Video Participants. I'm going to go over that one more time. So again, you do this by right-clicking on your own little black box or anyone whose camera is turned off and select Hide Non-Video Participants. Thank you. And remember, you can use the chat function anytime for any questions or comments, and we will take questions after our presentation in the Q&A section. Thank you for your patience. That was a bit to get through. Now let me quickly run through today's programme. We will be meeting two families who have benefited from having a dementia assistance dog. Henry and Anne Rankin, who have Uno, and Jeanette and John King, who have Lenny. We'll be hearing from Selena Gibson and Kerry Goff from the Dogs for Good project, who will take a look at the journey of the dogs themselves, from when they're puppies to when they're placed in their forever homes. We'll also be hearing about some of the key findings from the evaluation undertaken by Una Thompson-Bradley from HammondCare, and towards the end of the webinar, take some time to look to the future and what comes next with Una and Fiona Corner, who is the project manager for the Dementia Dog project. So that's a very quick run through of this morning's webinar. And just to remind everyone, you will have a chance to ask all of our speakers any questions you may have in the Q&A section later on. Remember and use the chat function for this. And so let's get started with one of our families who are the very happy owners of dementia assistance dog Uno, Henry and Anne Rankin, who, as I said, will be joining us for the Q&A later on this morning. Last week, Fiona Corner from the Dementia Dog project caught up with them to ask them about their lives with Uno.
Good morning, Henry. Good morning, Anne. How are you both today?
We're fine, Fiona.
Good, good. So thanks so much for doing this interview to share your personal experience of being involved in Dementia Dog and having the wonderful Uno in your lives. Before we went into talking about Uno, I was curious to know if you'd had dogs previously to Uno.
Yes, we had two Yorkshire Terriers, Yogi and Heidi, and we had them for 10 years, and both of them were
Passed away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
And I said I would never have a dog again after that.
Oh dear, that didn't go to plan. And how is it you first heard about Dementia Dog?
Well, we were up in for a conference up in Dundee, and we heard of Alec and Alec Fourpaws, and he brought the dog along to the meeting, and I was amazed at what this dog could do.
And then we went along to the Alzheimer's Scotland conference, and we met yourself and all the rest of the team, and we met Uno, and I think we instantly just adored them.
Yeah, I think the feeling was mutual. when is it Uno came into your lives?
Oh, the 16th of May 2018. So we've had him for over 2 years now. So
fantastic.
He's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm biased, but yeah, I think he is as well. Henry, I was quite interested to know, what are the biggest practical ways that the Uno might help you on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, well, it's the reason I get up in the morning. He wakes me up. He just touches my hand with his nose. He also brings up my medication case because I'm a type 1 diabetic, and
you need to take insulin.
I need to take insulin, and if
we have noticed that since we've had Uno, that usually Henry's blood sugars have stabilised so much, but he does have times when he goes hypoglycemic, which means low blood sugar. So Uno will alert us by even nudging Henry, or especially putting his head on his lap, just to let us know that he's concerned, whether there's the smell of the breath or whatever, but he seems to know that Henry needs some sugar. So even though he's not trained for that, he has picked it up so well, you know, and it takes a lot of pressure off of me, because, you know, Uno seems to be quicker now at picking it up than I do, and I used to pick it up, I thought, really quickly, but he seems to do it quicker than I can. So it's another safeguard.
Absolutely, and he's such a intuitive dog and so emotionally sensitive. He's highly tuned now to both of you.
Yes.
I found this out when I was doing a visit to
Edinburgh
Airport, and believe it or not, the dog I was in a wheelchair at the time, and the dog got to a stage, he stopped the wheelchair, and the person who was looking after me said, "I think you need to get something to eat." And we went and got some chocolate, some juice, and I felt great after that. But it was the dog that alerted them, because he actually went in front of the wheelchair to actually stop him. So that's another instance. You know, he seems to pick up things very quickly.
Yeah, and in turn, Anne, how does that have an impact or help you?
Well, it's basically when he's out, well, before COVID, when he was out with the Scottish Dementia Working Group, I did worry that he could have low blood sugar, but now I don't, because simply for the fact that I'll know Uno will look after him, and he does look after him. It's so strange, you know, and it takes a lot of worry off of me when he does that, you know. And even if Henry gets upset or distressed in any way, Uno picks up in that too, and he just knows it, and he comes over and he just puts his head on his lap, and so he says, "Daddy, it's all right, I'm here." So that takes an enormous pressure off me.
He just likes me better.
No, he doesn't. He likes me better.
I'm not even going to respond to that. You mentioned about kind of being out and about. What would usually happen when he's got his jacket on and you're both out and about?
Well, it usually takes us longer now to do anything. when we went to the supermarket, people would stop and ask what kind of dog he was. If we were sitting and having a coffee, they would ask, and then it kind of started a conversation for us. So you were delighted to tell them what Uno did for you, and in turn, we've met lovely people that we never knew before who will come up and say, oh, how's Uno today? Basically you were so proud of Uno that he would talk. In fact, he used to say that people talk to him because of Uno and because they liked Uno, not him.
I think, Henry,
that's definitely not true.
I think that's called 1-1.
A bit of jealousy that he wasn't the main man anymore.
But it's quite good because these people remember you, and they actually come up and say hello to you. It could be weeks later, but they still come up and say hello to you. How's you today? And you tell them that he's doing well. And I think one of the good things with he's quite a really good looking dog. I think that just like myself, I think that helps. That helps break the ice.
Two handsome men, aye.
Who can refuse? It's been, as you say, it's been 2.5 years of having Uno. And in that time, how would you sum up your experience of being involved in Dementia Dog and the team over that?
Well, you feel a part of a community, the Dementia Dog community. The team are always there, like Kerry will help us do some exercises with Henry and Uno after his stroke by just simple things, by throwing balls, but it did make a big difference. Nadia is helping me with applying for SDS. And of course you, Fiona, you're always there at the end of the line if we ever need you. So we know we can rely on all the team. When we first got Uno, Henry was worried about remembering the commands. So Kerry had made wee cards up so that he could go through them all. And it was really helpful, wasn't it?
It really helped. When I was doing the commands, I was always worried that I'd forget a command, but with these plastic strip
wee cards.
Wee cards, I can remember them. They were a big help to me because I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've got dementia here. How am I supposed to remember the commands? And I think it progresses when you're doing it day in, day out. That's what I found. I was getting better. I was starting to remember. And even if I didn't remember them, Anne was always there. She could tell me what the commands were.
But now you don't even think about it.
No.
You do it all the time now, so.
That's fantastic. To round up with the last question, how could I not ask, what is the thing you love most about Uno?
You want to start or I start?
You can both answer
it. Do you know, there's not one thing that I like about the dog. I like all of it. He's always there for me. And I always love seeing him in the morning because he's quite clever going down the stairs to get my bag and bring my medicine bag up. So I wouldn't think just one thing. He's got a great nature, and I think it's the nature of the dog. He knows he's working and he loves to please. That's the thing you do notice. He loves to please, and I think that's what I like about him.
Well, I just adore him because he has changed a bit of my life. You know, I used to be frightened when I went out and left Henry that something would happen, and I used to clock watch constantly. Now I don't, because I know Uno's there for him. So he's taken a lot of stress away from me. But he's just such a part of our family, and that's the most things. But every day is different. But I think, and I know Henry thinks this is really soppy, but I don't care. He is the brightest star in a very dark day. And I just love him to pieces.
Well, thank you, Henry, Anne, and of course Uno, and our interviewer Fiona. As always, Henry and Anne, it's a real pleasure to hear from you both, and how much Uno has changed your life since he joined you almost 2.5 years ago, so thank you. I think everyone will agree this has really set the scene or the tone well for this morning's webinar. So let's move on to our second speakers of today. Next, we're joined by Selena Gibson and Kerry Goff from Dogs for Good. Selena will be available for a Q&A later if anybody has any particular questions for her. And before that, let's find out a bit about the journey of a dementia assistance dog from being a puppy to settling with a family.
Hi, I'm Selena, Development Manager at Dogs for Good, and I've been involved right from the early stages of the Dementia Dog Project, which has always been about exploring how trained dogs can help people to live well with dementia. Now, it was originally a concept created through a Glasgow School of Art service design project commissioned by Alzheimer's Scotland way back in 2011. And the brief at the time was to inject fresh perspectives into service design for people living with dementia. And the original student concept was to provide those people in the early stages of dementia who are living at home with a fully trained assistance dog. This would be companion, helper, social connector, and a reminder for key daily tasks, as well as delivering joy, delight, and love. Now, I was involved in the first pilot where assistance dogs were successfully placed with 3 families. And the learning from this pilot, as well as the funding provided by Life Changes Trust, enabled us to expand on this by establishing a small team based in Scotland with the aim of providing another 8 assistance dogs to families living with dementia. Our assistance dogs start life as puppies, either from our breeding scheme at Dogs for Good or through external donors. And from 8 weeks of age, our puppies are looked after by our brilliant volunteer puppy socialisers, who, supported by our staff team, make sure that those puppies have the best start in life, gradually introducing them to all the things they might encounter later in their role as an assistance dog in a positive and a rewarding way. The dogs then come to our Banbury Centre for their early training at around 14 to 16 months of age. And here they join our team of experienced dog trainers to help them learn the skills they need for their role. And myself and the training team work together to observe the dogs as they progress through their training, to highlight those dogs which may be specifically suited to dementia dog work. And here we've been looking for dogs that have that special nature, being calm, affectionate, gentle on the lead, easy to live with, keen to interact with people, and enjoy learning the different skills. Once we decide on the dogs that may be suited, those dogs have moved up to Scotland to work with the team up there to start their advanced training. And here they learn more dementia-specific key skills, including responding to reminder alerts for medication, taking items between family members, providing reassurance through resting their head on a person, walking confidently on a dual lead so both the couple can walk the dog together, and are also trained to stay with the person with dementia if the carer needs to leave them for a short time, for example when paying for something in a shop. And with all these skills, the dogs help maintain that structured routine at home, be that social connector within the community and emotional anchor for both the person with dementia and their carer.
Hi, my name's Kerry, and I worked part of the Dementia Dog team based up in Scotland as an instructor. I had 8 dogs join me up here in Scotland to complete their advanced training, and then I was able to match and place them with families. The dogs were looked after in the evenings and weekends by our wonderful boarding volunteers who would bring them into our training base every weekday. This training base was at Castle Huntly, which is an open prison near Dundee. They provided us with a training space and an opportunity to select prisoners to work with the programme who were able to learn about dog training and behaviour. This foundation course was actually delivered by our partner organisation Pause for Progress. After this, the men had the opportunity to continue their training and go on to advanced training with the dementia dogs and learn new skills. This was taking the dogs out into the community, keeping up their socialisation, and also developing the tasks. Selena mentioned about these specific tasks earlier, and they were tailored later on to particular clients later on down the road. We needed to identify suitable families for the dogs in training to be matched to. The application process was thorough and involved several stages. This was to ensure that applicants were fully aware of what was involved in having an assistance dog and to make sure that the families were suitable. Applicants were referred to us in a variety of ways, either through Alzheimer's Scotland, other care professionals, and also some applicants contacted the project directly. At this point, they just registered their interest, and following that, a home visit was carried out, giving more in-depth information about the project, but also what was involved in having an assistance dog. At this point, if the applicant was interested, they would complete an application form, and they had to meet key criteria, which was early stages of dementia, living with a full-time carer, actually having a fenced-in garden, and a love of dogs. It was important that they could meet the needs of the dogs when they were living with them, and that they could use the skills that the dogs were being trained for, and being able to work towards specific goals with the dogs. If the applicant has met the key criteria, I would visit them in the family home to complete an assessment visit with Nadia, the dementia specialist. The main aim of this would be to gather more information about the couple, but also to carry out a dog handling practical session so they can experience handling an assistance dog. After this is the matching process. As with all assistance dog work, we take a great deal of effort to make sure that the right dog is matched with the right client. We look at the personality and lifestyle in terms of the dog matching the clients. We want to make sure that we create a happy bond between the client and to establish a long-lasting partnership. Once a match has been identified, I would tailor the dog's advanced skills to meet the individual needs of the couple that they are going to be placed with. The final stage is placement training. This is where the matched dog is placed with its family and lives with them full time. For the first 2 weeks, I visit on a daily basis, making sure that the support that the couples get is comprehensive and to make sure that everyone's needs are being met. During an 8-week period, those visits slowly tailor off, with the aim of covering a variety of environments, places like restaurants or cafes or shops, and making sure that the dog and the couple are comfortable in those environments. We'd also look at introducing task work, and again making sure that this is meeting the needs of the person living with dementia. By the end of this, the aim is to make sure that the couple and the dog are living happily together.
Thank you, Selena and Kerry. What a fantastic presentation, and I think everyone will agree we don't appreciate the amount of planning and preparation and work that goes into those dogs reaching their forever homes over that period. And I think, I don't know what the weather's like over in everybody else's areas, but it's quite gloomy here in the pictures of those dogs, those puppies, up to when they then move on to their forever homes is definitely bright and maddy. So thank you very much, Selena and Kerry. Selena may join us later, as I say, in the Q&A session. So now it's time to move on to the evaluation of the Dementia Dog project by HammondCare, and we want to hear from them about some of the findings from the evaluation that they undertook, illustrating how dementia assistance dogs have had a positive impact on the well-being of the lives of people with dementia, their carers and their wider family in a number of different ways. So I'd like to welcome Una Thompson-Bradley from HammondCare, who was the lead for the evaluation. Again, Una will also join us for the Q&A session later. So firstly, let's find out about the positive impact that dementia assistance dogs can bring, both for the person living with dementia and their spouse and families.
Welcome to our independent evaluation of the Dementia Assistance Dog programme in Scotland. This evaluation looked at the impact that assistance dogs have on the lives of the family members with whom they're placed. The evaluation considered how assistance dogs can support people to live well with dementia, with a focus on the well-being and physical activity of both the person living with dementia and the unpaid carer. So what did we do? Between June 2017 and December 2019, we spent time getting to know the 10 families involved in the programme. Families were asked to keep a journal record of day-to-day life with their dog, including any significant experiences or events, and to record their daily step count using a pedometer. This information was supplemented by questionnaires completed during in-person visits and phone calls to the families, which included a brief assessment of the carer experience. We explored the information gathered to ask how an assistance dog might support resilience or better coping, and how people living with dementia may be enabled to realise their citizenship roles within domestic, social and community settings. A key question throughout the evaluation was, would a well-trained pet dog offer the same benefits as an assistance dog for people living with dementia and carers? We found evidence of the positive impact of assistance dogs in the lives of people living with dementia and unpaid carers in a number of areas. The presence of the assistance dog changes the dynamic of the relationships within the home, as everyone makes space for the dog. It is this which forms the basis of the new benefits which the assistance dog brings. We identified specifically a new triadic, interdependent relationship in the households. This is about all of the family members knowing and understanding what the dog can do for them. The dog performs its role as an active member of this co-production. The other members can use the dog confidently as a resource. They can rely on it. The dog has become part of their caring team that is adapting to life with dementia. An important element of this new model is the avoidance of flashpoints within the household. The dog contributes to this by helping with practical tasks. For example, many of the dogs help to gently wake a family member up in the morning. The dogs also have an innate sensitivity, which means they almost step in and help to diffuse tension.
I was diagnosed with vascular dementia approximately 10 years ago. I hadn't even heard of the word dementia before. I find it pretty frightening.
Prior to getting Uno, Henry's dementia stopped him doing a lot of things.
I collapsed one day in the house and sat beside me until help came. He's always there. He never moves very far away from me. He collects my medication case. He wakes me up. He can take my clothes off. He
can open doors.
His insulin levels have stabilised simply because he now does not forget his medication thanks to Uno.
He's actually a great help to me.
Uno's the best thing or dog that's come into our lives. He improves Henry's life and mine. Dementia dogs are wonderful.
Dementia assistance dogs have a significant positive impact on carer well-being for multiple reasons. Throughout the family's journals, there were lots of references to carers' enjoyment and appreciation of their walks or free runs with their dogs. Although an additional commitment in terms of time and energy, for most carers this has become a welcome routine that gives them time outdoors each day and provides an opportunity for self-care. Carers feel emotionally supported by their dog due to the companionship it gives them. The dog is like a friend to talk to when things are difficult and helps them feel more able to cope with a bad day. Very importantly, the carer journals also reflect hope. The dog helps to take the focus off the negative, provides a lightness and humour, and makes the carer feel more optimistic about the future. Research has shown that hope can help carers of people living with dementia balance everyday stress and well-being, and fostering hope has been identified as an important part of supporting family carers. The dog is a constant, always there, whether at home, travelling, or at places new or familiar. Full access rights allow the dog to go everywhere and be that constant support. This wouldn't be possible with a pet dog. Having the dog present is also helpful in new, unfamiliar or disabling environments, or in situations that a person might find stressful or feel anxious about. The dogs are highly sensitive and adapt their behaviour, providing reassurance and comfort. No matter what changes in the family's circumstances, the dog is there. We find that the dogs support families to stay connected within their communities. They support the family to maintain existing networks, but also to form new connections. Throughout the journals, there was a lot of discussion about the dogs being conversation starters or connectors of people. The dog provides both a motivation and a reassurance for the person living with dementia in getting out and about in their local community. Being involved with the Assistance Dog programme has also navigated a number of families to additional support, for example, local dementia networks and carer groups. One family described being part of the project as being part of an exclusive club.
My mum was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and it was quite difficult for the whole family to take on board. I think when she was first diagnosed, to have a label, it's quite difficult to process that. Then we got the opportunity of Hope coming to live with Mum and Dad, and it was lovely to have a different perspective and something different to focus on. It's now about Hope and about how she's part of the family and how she gets on, and how Mum and Dad have now got to walk her in the morning, and they have they're out and about a lot more than they used to be. And I've noticed when we've got Hope with us, people come and talk to us. Yeah. And there's a point of conversation, and they're always wanting to touch Hope or speak to her, and then Mum feels free to talk back to people, and I think it's given her confidence that she's maybe not had for a while. So from that
really
point of view,
positive environment for Grandma.
It's been a very positive thing.
Yeah, she is just amazing.
Like Mum's best friend now. Yeah, I think we've all embraced it now.
Help keep dementia dogs in the picture.
Throughout the journals, there was lots of reference to a physical closeness between the person living with dementia and the dog, and evidence of attachment relationships. The dogs provide a safe haven or secure base in times when people were feeling anxious or low, meeting a need for physical comfort and closeness. And a combination of the training and the innate sensitivity of the dog means that they sense when a person needs them and proactively provide this contact comfort. This finding is about the dogs facilitating greater awareness and education about dementia within the communities in which they live. These dogs attract a considerable amount of positive attention, providing an opportunity for families to share the reasons they have the dog and how it supports them, as well as talking about dementia more generally. For physical activity, we looked across both the pedometer information recorded by the families and their journal records. We found a general increase in physical activity related to having the dog, as well as increased use of outdoor spaces, both new and familiar. Walking the dog became a central and highly enjoyable daily activity for families, in particular carers, whilst encouraging the time spent outdoors, which we know is so important for our well-being. There is strong evidence that the dogs contribute to the resilience of the person with dementia and unpaid carers, separately and together. We clearly identified that assistance dogs form close bonds with the people in the home and connect the household to their wider community. The dogs foster a sense of self-efficacy and in turn self-esteem through their presence. The dog gives everyone confidence to venture out into more social settings and is a safety net for the unexpected. The role of the dog team is essential, as the carer knows they can refer back to them. The very act of being taught how to handle the dog is an exercise in regaining some level of control over life with dementia. The moments of togetherness with the dog, speaking to the dog and talking to others about life with the dog, all help to create moments of meaning-making and reflection. The dog encourages conversation as people engage with the person with dementia, and they are, in turn, invited to tell the story of self and how the dog came to be part of their life. The peer support offered by the other dog placements helps to collectively make sense of our story with dementia. Day-to-day activities are the cornerstone of citizenship, and the dog is a key resource in supporting the person's participation in social civic life. The dogs act as a social bridge, not only in terms of connecting people and building relationships based on similarities and mutual experience, but also in facilitating access to the person's wider community and the resources and information therein. In doing so, the dog helps the person to build both bonding and bridging social capital. The economic analysis within this evaluation focused on change in health and care support plans and use of medications. The dogs did not appear to have an impact on support plans or medication use of the participants on the programme. The support plans varied in their makeup and complexity, reflecting the individuality of the people and situations, and possibly reflecting the fact that the dogs were placed across several different postcodes in Scotland. Indeed, some support plans were augmented as a direct result of the involvement of the dog team, who facilitated increased support on behalf of the person and their unpaid carer. However, what's not reflected is the role of the dog within the home, 24/7, 365 days a year. If such a service was to be funded by way of a human companion, this would significantly increase the costs incurred. Similarly, the constant, responsive nature of the support, built around a loving relationship, can't be replicated. The dogs essentially become part of the caring relationship, spreading both a sense of joy while at the same time providing practical support. So in summary, when you're part of the Dementia Dog programme, you have access to a family of support. As well as focused training from the dog instructor, families with dogs gain access to support and advice from a dementia specialist. This includes support to navigate health and social care, help to access self-directed support, and confidence and knowledge to make informed choices for the future. The families with dogs also connect with one another, gaining peer support. Carers of people living with dementia can experience stress as a result of the unpredicted and unwilled consequences of dementia, changing roles and relationships. Assistance dogs provide a constant resource for both the person with dementia and unpaid carer, and in doing so promote continuity in people's lives as they adjust to life changes, needs and support. Thank you.
And thank you, Una. What a well-structured and well-delivered presentation. So thank you for doing that. And I think amongst many other things that the evaluation illustrates is that it identifies the whole life approach that the Dementia Dog programme offers people with dementia and unpaid carers. So thank you, and we'll hear more about the evaluation later on when we talk about the future of the Dementia Dog programme. So now I'm going to ask Fiona Corner to join me for a few minutes. Fiona and I are going to have a quick chat just in some of her reflections so far, now that we're just about a third of the way through the programme. Before we do that, Fiona, I've just been asked to remind folks that if you have any comments or any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat function. You don't need to wait until the Q&A later. So please feel free to do that as much and as often as you want to. So, hello Fiona, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good, good. It's been a really great start to the morning, and really fantastic to hear from Anne and Henry, and also from Una, and as well as Selena and Kerry. So I wanted to take a few minutes just to talk a wee bit about the Dementia Dog programme from your point of view. So I believe it was 2016 when you joined the project as project manager. And obviously you've been part of the planning and the design of today's webinar. So I just wanted to maybe hear from you, what does that mean for you to get to this milestone and be able to deliver an event like this today?
Well, as you said, today does mark a huge milestone for us as a team. It's the culmination of 3 to 4 years of hard work from a lot of different people. And it's really great today to be able to share this with everyone who's joined us, and all the learning that's come out of that, and these wonderful outcomes that we're hearing that the families we support are benefiting from. And I think today is also a chance for us to take that moment to pause and reflect, and also look ahead at how all of this learning can help shape the next chapter and a future for Dementia Dog.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. I think bringing all those outcomes together, hearing from people in terms of their own experience, and then looking at that information and how that collaboration can be strengthened moving forward. But we'll hear a bit more of that later on when you talk about your vision. We don't want to give away too much, which wouldn't be right. So having heard from Anne and Henry about their experience of Uno, and I think, was it that Anne said he was the star, you know, in a very dark day some days, and also hearing from Una about the impact in relation to the evaluation. What does that mean for you and for the Dementia Dog team? It must be really encouraging and really positive to hear that.
It is. It's very moving, actually, on a personal level too. And I think looking back to the start of the 2016, when this pilot first started, and the arrival of our first lot of dogs to train at the start of 2017, we never could have imagined the amount of learning that would come out of the past 3 years, and also the new insights that's given us into how trained dogs can help people, not just those who are living with their diagnosis, but also their full-time carers and the wider family as well. And I think the Dementia Assistance Dog Programme is also acting as a springboard for us as a wider project to explore ways that dogs can really improve quality of life for those living with dementia. And I think what I'd like to add on that personal note, and I think I speak for all the team here, is that for us, this isn't just a job. We're so committed and passionate about trying to make a difference. And we understand that the journey through dementia can be tough and challenging, but we feel that through this project, we're able to provide ways to bring a real positive change for people, and that can be immensely powerful. And it's just an utter privilege to be able to work and support the families that we do. And they've become such an integral part of the Dementia Dog Project.
Thanks, Fiona. And I think you can see, even from Anne and Henry, and we'll hear from Jeanette very shortly, how much they value all of the staff that are part of that programme, and how much the relationship, and I think was described as a family, means to them. So thank you very much, Fiona. And I know that you'll be joining us later on for the Q&A, so thanks for giving us a couple of minutes of your time just now. So I've mentioned Jeanette, so we're now going to introduce Professor Jeanette King, who is going to join us today, representing her husband, Professor John King, and their lovely dog, who is called Lenny, that I mentioned before. Fiona caught up with Jeanette last week.
Hello, Jeanette.
Hi, Fiona.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good, good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview virtually with us.
Can you ever stop me from talking about Lenny?
We don't ever want to try. So, I just wanted to first ask how you and John first heard about dementia dogs.
Yeah, it was my daughter actually. She works for the NHS, and something came round the office about one of the dementia dog walks in Edinburgh. And she knew we had sort of been thinking about dogs, and she just thought this would be good. So that was how it started, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. And had either of you ever had dogs before in your lives?
Well, John had been brought up with dogs. So that was the first reason for thinking a dog might be good for him. But I'd never had a dog. I had never wanted a dog. I've never liked dogs. I particularly don't like big black dogs who always remind me of guard dogs snarling at the factory gate. So that was me.
Since that time, Jeanette, have either of you or both of you noticed any differences on a social level?
Well, when I say that Lenny became part of our family, we also became part of the Dementia Dog family. And because John's had severe depression for many, many years, he finds being sociable difficult. But he's always been able to be relaxed and at ease with all the people we've met through the big Dementia Dog Network, because we share this interest in Lenny. So it becomes very easy to not just to talk, but to feel that you share quite a special bond. So yes, it's made a big difference. And then, of course, when you go out walking, that becomes a social experience, which it isn't normally. You stop and talk to people with other people with dogs, or even if they haven't got dogs, they want to stop and pat Lenny and make a fuss of him. So it's that becomes more sociable.
They're a wonderful conversation starter, aren't they?
When
you've got a dog by your side.
Yes.
Yeah. And have you noticed more of a difference for John, particularly in being out and about more since Lenny arrived?
Yes. John never went for walks. He couldn't see the point of them unless you were actually going to the shops or something. But once we had Lenny, then he would wake up in the morning saying, "Where are we taking Lenny today?" which was marvellous. Now, more recently, he's having difficulty walking, but he still tries to get out with Lenny as much as he can, because that is such a pleasure for him. So in the long run, it might be that he'll need a wheelchair to go out with. But Kerry, the dog trainer, told us that Lenny's been trained to walk with a wheelchair, so that would be a further development, which would be marvellous,
And as you know, one of the ways we train our assistance dogs is to help with practical tasks around the house and the dual lead, so you can both walk the dog together. For Lenny, are there any more subtle or invisible ways that he helps you both?
Yes, and I think that they're actually the more important things, because Lenny is something that we share. So it's given us something new to learn about, to share. something for us to care for, so that we're part of this Lenny team, which is a very positive thing. Having a third presence in the house is a great way of relieving any tension that arises between you, because it's a diversion, a distraction. And anyway, he makes us laugh so much. I mean, John's depression isn't cured, but Len is the one thing that is guaranteed to make him smile. And that counts for an awful lot.
Do you both feel people respond differently to you with Lenny by your side?
Yes, because they don't just see a dog, they see an assistance dog. And so, of course, they wonder what kind of assistance he's giving, because they know about dogs for the blind. And sometimes people wonder if he's a hearing dog. So when I say no, he's a dementia dog, they want to know, well, in what ways does he help? So, and usually people are very interested in this. And we'll sometimes talk about, a family member who's got Alzheimer's, and it's really a golden opportunity, not just to let people know more about dementia dogs, but to make people feel more comfortable talking about Alzheimer's, because John is perfectly happy for us to talk about it while he's there. So there's no, embarrassment about it, which is good, I think.
One of the wonderful things we know about all dogs is the companionship and love that they can offer us. How would you describe the bonds you both have with Lenny?
It's love. I mean, it's simple as that, really. As I said, he's part of the family. He's part of the wider family. My daughter and son-in-law and grandchildren absolutely adore him. But the thing, I think it's important to mention this, because we weren't just taking on a dog. And this is what I discovered when we went to the first meeting in Aberdeen. You've got this tremendous support team. I think I would have been much more hesitant to take on a dog if it hadn't been for the knowledge that we would have initially a daily visit to help to teach us how to handle Lenny, and everything that we needed to know about him. I mean, that's what made the difference. And that's what made me feel okay, especially after I'd seen them in Aberdeen, and there were these two beautifully behaved, gentle dogs. And I thought, well, I think I can imagine having one of those in the house.
That was Lenny and Hope, wasn't it?
That was Lenny
yes.
and Hope.
Yeah, I remember.
And then to have not just Lenny, but Kerry and Nadia, who were always so reassuring when I was worried about, supposing we failed, and he had to go back. You won't fail. We're here to make sure you don't fail. And that's tremendous difference it makes.
Would you say that's one of the big factors that's kind of motivated you to apply for a dementia assistance dog?
Definitely, yes. It was the knowledge we wouldn't be doing it on our own, because you're already coping with Alzheimer's fairly recently, so taking on a dog might not be something you would think, wouldn't be the first thing you'd think about, especially, not for someone like me.
How would you sum up having Lenny in your life?
He's transformed it. Life is a very strange thing, I often think. Something awful happens to you, like discovering one of you's got Alzheimer's. And then from that, something wonderful happens. You go from, the worst thing in your life to the best thing in your life. So it's very curious. When you're diagnosed with, or one of you's diagnosed with Alzheimer's, you feel that the world's closing in on you. But since we've had Lenny, then a whole new world has opened up for us. And every single day, I think we are so lucky to have been given this dog. And I am so grateful to all the people involved with the project. Incredibly grateful. So thank you, all of you.
And thank you, Jeanette. What a fantastic interview. Really grounded in those themes of hope and love. And what Jeanette said, you know, it's much more about, you know, that family, that team approach being wrapped around the support for both herself and for John. I especially liked when she said that Lenny was something that they could share, that they could learn together with, and that they were part of the Lenny team. So thank you, Jeanette. That was a fantastic film, and I'm sure has inspired many of us this morning watching the webinar. So everyone, it's now time for a short break. You will see in the programme that is for 10 minutes. We'll meet back here and then we'll go out to breakout rooms. And please remember to put those questions in the chat function and keep those comments coming. So thank you, and we'll see you again in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed a fresh cuppa for your break or a cold drink. And I hope you've got it ready now as we move into our breakout rooms. So you'll see lots of faces popping up on the screen now. These are our facilitators, and I'm going to talk now about what we're about to do next. Just a few comments coming through the chat for those speakers from this morning, just to say people absolutely loved the presentations and the films, very moving. Some of the commentary that's coming through, and people are saying that it really demonstrates that positive impact and the outcomes for people with dementia and their carers and the wider family. So thank you everyone who's contributed to this morning's programme. So now we're going to move into our breakout rooms, and this is going to be a chance for you to discuss that concept that's been mentioned a few times around that Dementia Dog is providing that whole life approach or whole team approach to what it does in terms of the programme. But don't worry, our facilitators will take you through that. So each breakout room will have a facilitator from the Life Changers Trust, and also a member of either the Dementia Dog programme, HammondCare or Dogs for Good. All of the Life Changers Trust facilitators are on screen just now. So if you want to give us a bit of a wave just to say hello. We hope you enjoy this part of the programme. It gives you a wee bit of chance to participate and to feedback. Now, to get into your breakout rooms, there is no need to do anything because our wonderful technical support will do this for you and move you straight into the sessions. I promise that will happen. Okay, so we're going to get into breakout rooms now. We'll have about 20 minutes and then we'll come back here together, and then each room will then feedback via the facilitator. So feel free to ask them any questions and we'll see you all shortly. Enjoy. Okay, so I think that's all of our facilitators back. We have Elizabeth, Andrina, Fiona, Charlie and Louise. So welcome back. I hope that was an interesting and detailed session. I'm sure it was, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from you all in just a wee minute. So welcome back to everyone, and I hope you enjoyed some time to discuss and debate some of those key issues and outcomes that have been outlined throughout the morning from our films and our presentations through the life of the evaluation. And I hope you've been able to offer some new insights and learning and really feeding into that ask and that plea for collaboration moving forward when we talk a bit more about the vision very soon. So I'm now going to ask our facilitators to very briefly feedback two main points from the breakout session. So Elizabeth, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Arlene. A really rich discussion despite time being limited. Two key points. First of all, having a dog in your life, it's something, it needs you and you need them. And importantly, it's not just about one person, it's about the couple, it's about the family, it's about the person with dementia, it's about the carer. And as part of that, the dog can trigger conversation. We spoke about the person with dementia's communication skills being renewed, regenerated, if you like, because there's a focus there that they're able to talk about the dog. Second key point in relation to how the project can work collaboratively with others, the third and statutory sector, to expand the model, reach more families. Lots of examples about giving people who have a dog already, dementia dog already, to create opportunities for them to go and talk to other organisations, talk to other people, other groups, to tell their story, relate their positive experience, the benefits of having a dog. It might be care homes, it might be primary school children, it might be the Rotary Club in your local area. So lots of opportunities to get the word out in person, but then also using social media to reach the general public in a broader sense. Thank you, Arlene.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That's really helpful, and really, I think what this morning's illustrated is the power of hearing the stories from people that are actually in receipt of the dog. So thank you for that. Okay, Andrina, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thanks, Arlene. Again, we had a really good discussion and not really enough time to discuss. In terms of what dogs bring to people's lives, a lot of the people in our discussion group had dogs, and just we're saying a lot of things that came out of the evaluation, really seeing benefits, enjoying your life, having support, unconditional love, and just a companionship. And we talked about having continuity of support, one-to-one support from dogs, and different types of models that are out there, such as the Borrow My Doggy, and Carla talked about the Community Dogs programme as well. We talked about borrowing a dog versus having a dog, and that for people with dementia, actually owning the dog and having that dog there regularly gives them the opportunity to learn new skills. In terms of working with other projects, someone asked about how the Dementia Dog team could maybe work with people with dementia who already own a dog in order to be able to enhance the benefits that dog brings to them and perhaps bring more confidence. We also talked about intergenerational projects where there are younger people who can support people with dementia to actually go out for a walk with the dog with them, or to take the dog out when they're feeling less mobile. And lastly, just in terms of working with third sector organisations, having a paid coordinator role, which would work across a number of different organisations in an area to promote and facilitate dementia dog or dog-related activities in a different range of settings, and not always relying on volunteers. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Andrina. Really interesting, and yeah, just kind of bringing in that intergenerational aspect, because children, dogs, what's not to love? So yeah, absolutely, and yeah, just that collaborative approach in relation to delivery of the model is key. Okay, Fiona, I'm going to hand over to you now if you want to share some of the key points. Fiona, you're on mute, that's it.
Thank you. We were extremely fortunate in our group to be joined by Glenys and Ken, who have had Casper for 10 years. So we had the most wonderful stories about how he's helped their lives. And it was a great conversation. 2 points I'd raise in particular around dogs providing a routine and a purpose, and that being something that can get people outside particularly, so that feeds into social situations and an easy way to get to talk to people. And on the extending the reach and supporting the project going forward, we had a really lovely comment, an idea around having a continuous presence in the community or society for dementia dogs, described as perhaps loads of dogs with jackets on that could act as ambassadors. And actually subsequent to the group ending, a couple of people have come back and said, yeah, that seems like a really good idea going forward. So that's maybe one to put forward there.
Thanks, Fiona. Yeah, that's very visionary and really looks towards the future. So I'm sure Fiona and the team will welcome that and look at that in terms of their future plans. Thanks, Fiona. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Charlie.
Hello, thank you. Yes, yeah, good discussion. Same kind of ran out of time towards the end there, but there was the kind of wider therapeutic benefits of having a dog, and that came up. Had a lady in our breakout room who took her dog to visit her mum in a care home, and the reaction that her mum had to the dog was kind of sort of more powerful than kind of a medical approach to dementia. So I suppose that's an interesting idea about the kind of non-medical benefits of having a dog. Also the idea of love and companionship with the dog came up as well. And an interesting point was about, I suppose, on a wider approach to having a dog was, especially during the situation that we're in now, that even having a pet in a home with COVID-19, that you're able to kind of touch a dog and pet a dog and things like that, which obviously is hugely beneficial. The second point, similar to Andrina, we were looking at there's an idea of providing skills for people who already have a dog, that perhaps that could then be used to use their dog in a more kind of wider approach, such as going to old folks homes, care homes and things like that as well. So that's kind of the 2 points that we discussed.
Thanks, Charlie. And I think, especially during the situation we face just now, that having that contact is really critical for people, and the dog will bring a lot of that for people that either have a dementia assistance dog or have a pet at home. So thanks, Charlie. And last but by no means least, Louise, do you want to share some of the key points from your discussion?
Yeah, thanks, Arlene. Again, we ran out of time, so we're frantically trying to do the second question towards the end. But there was a few people in the group that had experience of having had assistance dogs, or their partners had them. And I think the massive benefits in terms of companionship, the social connections that it brings, and having a structure to your day. So the getting up, the walking the dog and feeding the dog, that helps all to maintain a sense of normality in people's lives. There was also something there about creating new memories. So from the point at which you get the dog and you're creating new memories as a family, which is lovely. And again, like Charlie, talking about the security and safety that having a dog beside you in such uncertain times, when you're out and about, feeling like you've got something that anchors you and that grounds you, and that you know you're safe with them. In terms of the sort of second question, we talked about maintaining and developing connections across countries. So making sure that projects are connecting up with one another to share learning. And we had a lovely example of Zorro, who was originally trained, I believe, in Australia, and then travelled to Scotland with his family, and supposedly sat very nicely on a plane all of that way. But that was a great connection that was made in our group there. And I think just continuing the conversation about how we can advertise more widely and how we can get the word out about the projects and the good work that they're doing.
Thanks, Louise. That's really helpful. And I think you're absolutely right. And for some that don't know, that there's a similar dementia assistance dog programme in Australia as well. And there's that cross-pollination of learning across both countries. So I'm sure Una and Fiona and others will be able to provide more information on that if people want that. And I know that it's referenced in the evaluation too. So thank you all of our facilitators. I do appreciate that time is limited, and I think what we will be doing is sharing Fiona's contact details later on in our post-event email, so people can continue that conversation then and get in touch and feed in their comments and ideas at that point as well. So thank you to everybody that was part of the breakout session this morning. Thanks for your comments, thanks for your ideas and your questions, and I'm sure we'll be able to feed a lot of that in to the Q&A as well, because there's definitely a lot coming through. And I think what we've seen now, that the webinar up until this point is stimulating a lot of really good discussion. But in saying that, we're not done yet. There's more to come. So next, we're going to find out a bit more about the learning and the recommendations from the evaluation report, and look a little now towards the future and the vision for Dementia Dog. So I'm now going to hand over to Una Thompson-Bradley, Senior Project Officer for the UK and Europe at HammondCare. who will be followed by Fiona Corner, Project Manager, Dementia Dog, to find out a wee bit more about the learning and recommendations from the evaluation report and the vision for Dementia Dog. So now I'll hand over to Una. Thanks, Una.
Thank you, Arlene, and hello everyone. So looking to the future, our evaluation team completed a brief analysis of the strengths, challenges, opportunities and threats for the Dementia Assistance Dog Programme. From this morning, you'll have heard that the programme's strengths lie in the very clear positive impacts for both people living with dementia and carers. It's a unique and highly personalised service, and it's delivered by a very skilled team within a tested but evolving model. Some challenges facing the programme include the difficulty in evidencing value for money. So at face value, these dogs represent a high cost resource. However, there's currently no comparative service in Scotland in terms of the constant support on offer, the highly tailored nature of that support and the positive outcomes for all involved. For example, if a service like this was to be funded by way of a human companion, it would significantly increase the costs. Other challenges include technology alternatives that are ever evolving, including, for example, socially assistive robots, and a dog may have a short life as an assistance dog if a placement breaks down. The Dementia Dog team have also learned what special qualities in temperament and skills are required to provide a really great dementia assistance dog, and this can in turn make the selection process more challenging to find dogs with that specific blend of attributes. In terms of opportunities, there's scope for the dog team to develop an approach that distinguishes those people who may benefit from a well-trained pet dog versus an assistance dog. There's also an opportunity to follow the assistance dog over a longer period of time with a family to see if and how the role might evolve. Generally speaking, there tends to be little value placed on the kind of highly personalised outcomes we're seeing within the dog programme by funders of more traditional services. And one of the key threats to further developing the programme relates to securing flexible funding that can support the Dementia Dog project to readily respond to the greatest areas of need and demand from people living with dementia and carers. As an evaluation team based on the learning from this programme of work, we would hope to see the provision of dementia assistance dogs continue to be part of a wider service to connect people with the joy of dogs in different community settings, to provide holistic and meaningful support that's tailored around the individual needs of people living with dementia and carers. And now I'll hand over to Fiona, who'll talk through in more detail the future vision for the Dementia Dog project. Over to you, Fiona.
Thanks, Una. We've heard today just how truly life-changing a dementia assistance dog can be. And as Una touched on in her previous slides, a vital ingredient of creating these lasting and successful partnerships is our ability as a team to provide that specialist support. And that support really needs to be holistic, meaningful and timely for those families. And this requires a highly personalised and tailored approach. Now, it's the needs of our clients, our families, that lie right at the heart of what we do. From those pioneer families involved in our World First pilot back in 2012, to the 8 further families that we've been able to support thanks to the funding from Life Changers Trust since 2016. This sharing of learning's really taken on an international angle as well, with, as Arlene mentioned just there, our collaboration with Australia and Assistance Dogs Australia and HammondCare, who undertook a dementia assistance dog pilot there. And more recently, last summer, we hosted groups from Japan and Sicily who are really keen to come across to Scotland and learn more about the work that we're delivering here. Collectively, this learning plays a really pivotal role in how we as a team here in Scotland can develop forwards services that can reach and help more people who are living with dementia. Now, this slide shows our Dementia Dog team. And as a team, we work really closely together to try and fully understand each client's challenges, hopes and aspirations of having a dog in their lives. And this helps us really give us a complete picture of how we can provide them with the right kind of support, because as we know, one size doesn't fit all. The small size of our team, whilst challenging from a resource perspective, also does enable us to adapt quickly and apply new learning back into the support we give to ensure that it's always meaningful. Now, this slide here, I couldn't resist not to put some pictures in of some of our beautiful dogs. And this was back at the start of 2017 with the arrival of our first 3 dementia assistance dogs. They travelled up from Dogs for Good's base down in Banbury up to our operational base at the time at Castle Huntly Open Prison, where Kerry was to work with them along with prisoners from Castle Huntly to take these 3 dogs, as Uno, Webb and Willow, through their advanced training. Now, it was during those next few months that inquiries also started to flow in from families who were eager to find out how they could apply for one of these special dogs. This actually started to expose a wider challenge for us as a team, because as more inquiries came through, it became increasingly apparent to us that for many of these families, an assistance dog wasn't perhaps the ideal solution. So perhaps it was somebody who's living alone with dementia, or perhaps someone who was more progressed in their diagnosis. Some families were a bit worried about the commitment of taking on a dog full time, and others did have concerns about those additional responsibilities involved in taking on a working assistance dog. So to tackle this, later in 2017, we managed to secure a 3-year grant from the National Lottery Community Fund. And this doubled our team in Scotland to 4 people. And alongside our assistance dog work, it enabled us to expand our reach, developing new initiatives out in the community. This included developing a community dog service where a specialist handler and trained dog work one-to-one with somebody with a diagnosis. And through a series of goal-focused structured sessions, they help boost someone's confidence and help them feel more connected in their community. We also rolled out a series of dog day events where volunteers and their pet dogs were trained as dog day teams and supported these monthly therapeutic group events where we could welcome people who are at any stage of their dementia and their carers. This meant that now we had different options of support for people dependent on their circumstances. And in this way, we could really radiate out that person-centred approach that drives our assistance dog work into these other broader community-based pilots. Now, we know an underlying question for HammondCare was whether a well-trained pet dog could result in similar outcomes as a dementia assistance dog. As we've heard and seen today, that just isn't possible in every case. And the reason for that is that because for each family, their journey through dementia is different and unique. However, what we have seen is that for the majority of families who've approached us and inquiring, the one constant thing they all highlight that they'd value most in the dog is that love and companionship. We believe that all dogs have the potential to offer something special. And the work that we've been undertaking the past 3 years in the community has evidenced that these additional support options are required if we're to reach that wider population of people living with dementia in Scotland. So I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all of you for your ideas and your input into the breakout sessions that we've just had. And just from the key points we've heard back, it's clear there's been some really interesting discussions. As Arlene said, our team will be looking at that more in depth after today to look at what we can take forwards. So a huge thank you for that.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Una. That's been a really interesting part of the programme, and I think, as Fiona said, really illustrates how much the programme has grown over the years that it's been in operation, and how they've had to and been willing to adapt and be more flexible to the needs of people with dementia, unpaid carers, by offering that different levels of support through the community support and supporting people in terms of their confidence and well-being. I think what has really illustrated through some of the earlier films and through some of the discussions that break out is that, you know, people are unique, and how people experience dementia is unique. So their experience of the Dementia Assistance Programme for Dementia Dog will be very different. But the most constant theme is that love and that companionship that dogs bring. And I think it's really important to note that moving forward, and I know that Fiona has said that it is about that whole team approach that's really important for that individual and that individual's family and carer, and that there's a range of different options in terms of bringing that whole life approach to life, if you like. So thank you very much. In terms of the evaluation, there's that will be available on our website tomorrow, as well as an accessible summary that really lifts and illustrates some of those key case studies. And what we'll do is, as part of the post-event email, we'll post a link to that so that you get easy access to that. So I'm sure what we have heard and discussed so far has given people a lot of food for thought regards their own learning in relation to Dementia Dog, and they will want to take away from today's webinar. And I'm sure, Fiona, your team will be getting lots of emails and contacts to discuss lots of those ideas and lots of those plans. So now I'd like to introduce a second break for 10 minutes, just to give you all a bit of a breather, and then we'll meet back here for the final section of our webinar, which is our Q&A and our closing remarks. So enjoy your break, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that coffee break, tea break, cold drink break, whatever that was. So now this is the final part of our webinar, which is our Q&A session. I know there's been a lot to engage with so far, so thanks for staying with us, and I hope you've enjoyed it. So I'd like to now introduce our panel. So if our panel could turn their cameras on. So I know we have Henry and Anne here already, so hello. I think that's Jeanette joining us too, Una and Fiona. So hello everyone, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Fine, good. Well, we've got a number of different questions, and don't worry, everyone will be getting the opportunity to ask them, to answer them. So let's get started. So the first question, Fiona, is for you. So what people would like to know is if you've ever placed an assistance dog with someone living alone with dementia.
So we haven't done that, and the main reason for that is as well as looking at the needs of the clients we support, we also need to take into consideration the welfare of the dog. Now, the nature of the assistance dog programme is that we're looking at the longevity of partnership. So dogs are quite young when they're placed, and we're looking for that partnership to last as long as possible. So as dementia progresses over the years, we want to ensure that the dog's needs can be met in the same way as they are in that first year of the dog being placed.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you. Okay, so our next question is for Henry and Anne. So Henry and Anne, if you want to unmute your microphone so that you're ready to go. So can you tell everyone, did it take some time to get used to having Uno around, or was it a quick transition?
From my point of view, it was quite a quick. I always worried about the dog not being able to work with the two, but he actually picked up very well, and so did Dan.
I was well trained too, Arlene.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, Anne. I'm glad. Did you get the same level of training as Uno, did you? And why do you think it was such a quick transition? Why do you think you settled into it really well?
He just seemed to become such a big part of our family really quickly. It's as though we've always had him. I don't know why. He just settled so quickly, and he's just done what he had to do. And in fact, he's walking in front of the camera just now.
That's okay. It's all about him too.
It is. I just think it's the type of dog he is and the nature. He's just so loving and giving, and he loves cuddles, and we love getting them. So he's just amazing, isn't he?
Yep.
So
Certainly
I think it's just, it was a good match.
A good match, yeah.
Yes.
And as you've said, the amount of support that you got from the Dementia Dog
yes.
team, you know, really just cemented that, didn't it? And
it did.
And kept that going and continues to keep going. Thank you, Henry and Anne. So over to you now, Jeanette, it's your turn. So you've said in quite a number of occasions, I remember you speaking at our Grampian regional event as well, way back in March last year, about your experience with Dementia Dog, and you said you'd never had a dog before. So what people are interested to hear about is what you would say to someone who had reservations like yours about the responsibility of having a dog, but who thinks that an assistance dog could help them.
Well, I would say go for it and trust the experience of the team. I mean, I said, you know, in my interview with Fiona, I was worried that we wouldn't do it right, or you know, how could we send him back? How awful that would be, and so on. But it was that kind of constant encouragement. But you will be fine, because we will help you to be fine. So I think it was that, and I must admit there was, and I suppose that very first meeting in Aberdeen, that went a long way to reassuring me, because up until that point it's just the idea of having a dog under my feet all day, but once I actually saw Lenny, then it became, you know, it wasn't just a worry, it was this was the dog that, or the kind of dog that we might have, and that I could cope with. So I think it was the two things. It was that first meeting, and then of course him being brought to the house. And once he was in the house, then that just seemed a very natural kind of thing. So I would say go for it, you know, give it a try. The rewards are so enormous. They're worth any initial qualms that you might have.
Thanks, Jeanette. That's absolutely brilliant. And I think you're right. It's that reassurance, that confidence, and having those first meetings and those first steps that really then bring that relationship to life and change that thinking. So thank you, Jeanette. Thank you. So Fiona, back to you. Another question for you. So what people are asking is there flexibility on the dogs being homed with people who are beyond the early stages of dementia? And by the way, what people are also saying is that presentations and films have been great this morning. So well done, everybody.
So our learning so far has shown that these dementia assistance dogs can have the greatest impact when they're placed with a couple where the person with the diagnosis is at that earlier stage. And what we mean by that earlier stage is that there's still quite an active routine every day, still a good level of independence, and because all the skills we train the dogs with can have that kind of maximum impact in maintaining all those routines for as long as possible. So that's why we do focus more on matching the dog to people who are at that earlier stage. But we are looking to develop programs where we can then support other people who might be at later stages of dementia.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you. And Una, not to forget you, so what the question for you has been is, what was the most surprising or significant finding from the evaluation? That's a biggie.
It's a biggie. It's a really great one. So what we tried to do through our evaluation was look at the evidence from the previous programme. So we knew certain things in terms of impact of the dogs across those two programmes, and then we tried to really focus in on what was going on behind that, you know, what mechanisms were at play. And so really what we're saying is that these dogs contribute
to resilience, both for the carer and the person with dementia, and that is really huge, you know. So we saw within the programme that the dogs help to build that sense of connectedness, a sense of mastery, control, and meaning making, you know, even just being out and about. And we talked about the dogs as a social connector, those conversations about me, my life with dementia, what the dog can do to support me, are opportunities for meaning making. So I think that's really powerful. And also this idea of a new dynamic within the home, this domestic co-production, where everybody knows what the dog can do for them to support them, and they use it and rely on it, and the dog has very much become part of the family.
Thank you, Una. Thank you for that. Okay, now I'm going to bring in Selena now from Dogs for Good, who you heard earlier on this morning talking about the journey of the dog. So Selena, this is a question for you. Could a dementia dog assist when loss of language is a major symptom of Alzheimer's disease? And that was from Ian Symington.
No, that's a really good question, actually, and something we've seen benefits around language with some of the assistance dogs in the past. And I think because with dementia, language can be infected in lots of different ways, from the confidence to try and speak, to getting sort of feeling the pressure of other people, and you know, having expectations. And also the sort of tension and frustration that can build up. And I think a dog can impact all of those areas in lots of different ways. For example, we worked with one person who found it able to practice language a bit more with the dog. The dog didn't answer back, didn't mind if she got it wrong, and therefore starting to develop that confidence to then try that with other people and start to see those conversations start. And I think Jeanette would agree that with her partner John, there's been similar scenarios. So I think, yes, the dogs can have a real impact on that language in lots of different ways from different aspects.
Okay, thanks, Selena. Jeanette, did you want to add anything to that? Because obviously Selena's referenced.
I hadn't thought about it before, but I think Selena was right. The person with Alzheimer does get an opportunity to talk more than they might normally. And as you know, John has sort of other complications with his speech. But so one of the nicest things for me is hearing John when he goes and gets my tea in the morning, talking to Lenny. I mean, it's just a very simple thing, but just starting the day with that little conversation. So and I would hope that would certainly keep going, because that is very important. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeanette. That's really helpful. It just brings it all into context, doesn't it? Okay, so we're now moving on to Henry and Anne again. So if you can unmute your microphone, please. Thank you. So what people are keen to know is how important the daily support from the dog trainers were at the beginning of your journey with Uno when you first got him. And you're on mute. That's you all sorted. Yeah.
When Kerry came for the first fortnight every day, it was great support for me. But certainly for Henry, because as you heard, he did worry about forgetting commands. So Kerry came up with the idea of the cards, so that helped as well.
Yeah.
Did you think, what support did you get?
He got confidence off the trainer, and the good thing was if we get stuck at something, we could always phone her, and so I didn't start to worry about it then, and it's been like that. You know, you meet your trainer, but you're friends with them for life.
Very much so.
Yeah, and it's that family, as you say, isn't it, that everybody's talked about. Jeanette, what about you? What about the support from the dog trainers and your experience at the beginning of your placement with Lenny?
couldn't have managed without it. Just that taking things step by step, it seems like a very gradual process. So we weren't sort of bombarded with too much information at once. I mean, what Henry and Anne were saying about the learning, you know, you'd have one aspect to focus on at each session. So you were learning stuff without being really aware of any effort, because it became something you didn't need to think about after a while, because of this very steady, regular build-up. And I think one of the other things I really liked was that Kerry and Nadia and Fiona, you for that matter, they've always spoken directly to John. And a lot of people, even friends, have a tendency to direct most of the conversation to me, because they know it's easier for me to communicate than it is for John. But Kerry and Nadia were very, very good at tuning into his speech. I can remember Nadia saying, well, if I sit on John's right-hand side, I can pick up what he's saying more easily, because where he had the surgery was on the left. So I was so impressed by that. And that was really important, I think, for his self-esteem and his confidence.
And I think that's shined through, hasn't it, Jeanette, in terms of all the kind of the stories in the films, is that you know, that uniqueness in the approach, you know, having that expert and that experience, and the staff being able to tune in exactly to people's individual needs rather than taking the kind of general approach. So yeah, that's a really important point. So we're coming to the end of our question and answer session. So there's one final comment or question, and this will be relevant to everybody, I think, but I'll ask it of you first, Fiona, and then others can chip in. So first of all, what people are saying is that they've loved the presentations and they're all very moved about what they've heard and hearing about your experiences. So what's been asked is, how can I help spread the detail of the great work you do with these superhero dogs? How can we help? So Fiona, over to you, and then we'll maybe ask Anne and Henry and Jeanette and even Nuna to maybe contribute to that as well.
Thanks, Arlene. I think those are the kind of discussions that I would love to pick up after this event, because in my mind there's a whole variety of ways that we can help get the word out to people, and it would be on a number of different levels, from local to national level to online to face-to-face. So I think there's a lot of different answers to that, but for people who would like to take that conversation forwards, I'd really welcome that opportunity.
Okay. Anne, Henry, is there anything that you want to say in response to that?
I think it's talking about it more. There's lots of people don't know about dementia dogs, and getting the word out is easy to come from myself or Anne. I think it just needs that wee bit of push to get people talking about it.
Okay.
We feel privileged that we have Uno and brought into our lives, that we see the benefits, and we think that people could benefit greatly. So we really need to get the word out there about dementia dogs, whether it's Facebook or anything like that. But we need to get it, because we've only got the 10. We need to have more, so that other people can be helped the way we have been helped.
Okay. Thank you both.
Can I
of course you can, Jeanette. Yeah, you chip in too.
I agree with you, Anne. I mean, one of the things that motivates me to go out and give talks when I get the chance is I can't bear to think that we are the last people to have a dog like this. I mean, we've gained so much. It would be terrible if it just stopped there. I mean, unfortunately, COVID has put the mockers on a lot of things. But when that's over, I think there are often groups that are really ready to have interesting talks. I mean, I used to go to a British Lung Foundation group, and that closed down before I was able to take to it. But I've taken learning up to primary schools, which they love. We've had a session with the Rotary Club, which is obviously good for fundraising. And I'm always happy to do this. I suppose we have to now start being a bit more imaginative about what we can do in spite of the lockdown, thinking more about Zoom and so on. But I think there are lots of groups that would enjoy hearing about our dogs, especially as we have, the perfect visual aid to take along. So
absolutely, Jeanette, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Una, anything that you want to add?
Just to say that, yeah, it would be great to see the evaluation report shared broadly to leverage support, and really share the impact findings based on people's very personal stories and journeys with the dogs.
Mm-hmm. And we've got a wee extra question thrown in there. Deborah, our comms director's keeping me right here. One more. And I think this really just wraps a lot of this up. People are saying, how do we see the Scottish Government integrate the use of these dogs, the approach, the whole life approach model that you've also well presented today? How do we make sure that that's integrated into the next dementia strategy, and that we make best use of all the interventions and fund and support to make that happen? So how do we do that, Fiona? I mean, what's your reflections on that?
I think having that working partnership with the Scottish Government and having that long-term support for, as you say, that whole life approach is really key, because as we've heard today, that is very much how we operate, how we support families. And also looking ahead into the future, we want assistance dogs to remain a potential support option for more families, but we also, alongside that, we feel it's important that we can grow other programs of work to reach that wider population. So it's about looking at how that could all come together, and certainly Scottish Government would be a key partner in that.
Yeah.
Okay, Fiona, absolutely, and I think that's a good way to end. I'm just going to finally apologise, because apparently I cut Fiona off in her prime at the end of her presentation, and she had one final point to make. So I don't know, Fiona, if there's anything else that you want to say at that point. That was bad chairing on my part, so apologies for that.
Not at all. Thanks, Arlene. It was really just rounding up when I was sharing our future vision, and I presented a little graphic, which I'm not sure was too easy to see anyway. But really, it was just to say that, as I've mentioned earlier, it's the needs of the people living with dementia who approach us that is right at the heart of this future vision. It's about us being able to develop tailored, flexible ways we can support people that's meaningful to them. And that can fall into two key programme areas as we envisage it. So families who might want a dog in their life full time, so be that a highly trained assistance dog or perhaps their own family pet dog, and those where perhaps for whatever reason that commitment doesn't feel right to have a dog full time for them, and they'd like those safe, regular interactions with dogs. And that there is a variety of ways that we envisage of those yellow bubbles that we can grow that. And also, Jeanette, you mentioned about currently with the ongoing challenges around coronavirus, we do reflect that in this vision, that we want a programme that's as robust and adaptable as possible and integrates those face-to-face models of our delivery with virtual programmes. So, and that translates through as well to how we can spread the word as well, of course. So I think it links in with our Scottish Government question just now, that collaboration is really key to how we at Dementia Dog work, but we can't achieve this whole vision on our own. So we need support to get there, and we just invite all of you to be a part of this exciting future. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you. And what a perfect end to a really interested and enthusiastic Q&A session. So thank you, everybody, for taking part. So I just want to say thanks again to our panel and also to your contribution, but I'll do a wee bit of thanks later on towards the end of the session. I think it's been a really engaging part of the programme, and I think what it will do for Fiona and the wider team is really shape some of that vision and that planning work that's about to take place moving forward, but in a very collaborative way, as Fiona's very well demonstrated through our points that she's made. Okay, so before I give thanks as chair and close today's event, I want to just say a few things on behalf of the Life Changes Trust. As you know, the Life Changes Trust has funded the Dementia Dog Programme and commissioned the independent evaluation of the programme by HammondCare. So we're delighted to see this webinar come to fruition, and for it to be such an engaging, rewarding and very emotional morning for different reasons, and we can see that in the commentary that has come through. The Trust welcomes the findings from the report from HammondCare, and we think it's very evident from today's event the very personal impact that the dogs have on the lives of people with dementia, their carers and their families that they're trained to support. This is both for the person with dementia, as I say, and for the carer and the wider family. And I think it's important to reflect as well, and we've touched on this a wee bit in relation to some of the discussions at the Q&A, that despite the reference in the report that some of you may have seen to high cost resource, what the report in today's event has outlined is that Dementia Dog indeed involves a whole team approach, from the journey of that dog that Selena mentioned and Kerry in the early days when they were puppies, before it reaches the family, to the ongoing support provided as the placement develops and the dog is settled into its forever home. This is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day model of support for people, and it's responsible, it's flexible and it's adaptable, and that's the real beauty and uniqueness of what Dementia Dog offers in disability funding terms. And if we were able to equate this to a traditional social care support, this is very good value for money and a good use of how an individual might use a self-directed support budget. And what we want to be doing is influencing IJBs and Scottish Government in the flexible use of self-directed support to fund Dementia Dog for people with dementia, for their families and for their wider families. It's self-directed support is about that flexibility, that adaptability that Dementia Dog offers, and allows individuals to manage their care and that of their family members. The Trust sees the evaluation by HammondCare and the learning demonstrated by today's event as having shown the real impact of Dementia Dog can have in the lives of people with dementia and their unpaid carers, and support the vision as outlined by Fiona and by Una and Dogs for Good. We will continue to support this project as we have done all through our funding partnership with them, and we look forward to this attracting future funding to enable it to grow and support many more families living with dementia in Scotland and beyond. And so we're now at the end of today's webinar. It has been a real pleasure to chair this, and I hope everyone has enjoyed it and will take away lots of learning and begin to think about what they can do to realise the vision for Dementia Dog as outlined again by Fiona and Una. I want to thank our speakers today. I want to thank Henry, Anne, Jeanette, Una, Selena, Kerry and Fiona. They've done an amazing job and have given us a real insight into this important work and its impact. I want to say thanks to our facilitators, Elizabeth and Gina, Charlie, Fiona and Louise. This event has been planned in collaboration with our speakers today, as well as the Life Changes Trust. So thank you to everyone involved. Special mention goes to our Director of Comms, Deborah, and to David, our tech support from HCVF and his team. It takes a lot to make this as seamless as I think it has been today. So thank you both for making this happen. You will receive an email in the next few days with links to everything that we have shared today, and also with contact details for comments. And finally, in that post-event email, if there's anything else that you want to share or want to ask, please do that, because what we, in collaboration and in partnership with Dementia Dog, is we want to continue that conversation and see how we very much provide that collaborative approach in making change happen. So it's without further ado that I thank everyone and say enjoy the rest of your day. And what I haven't said is thank you to HammondCare as well for the production and the publication of the evaluation report, which again will be available, as I've said earlier in the webinar, on the website tomorrow. So thank you everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.